I don't know about you, but 2020 has made me not realize what month, day, anything is. But welcome to the September board meeting. We're glad you're here. If you're here in person or if you're here virtually, thank you for coming and being a part of us tonight. Do we want to stand and say the pledge?
Yes, absolutely. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Has everyone had time to go over the minutes?
Make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
A motion by Mr. Hutchinson, a second by Mr. Bell. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented?
Aye.
And is the agenda, is there any changes to the agenda? I
have
flipped
none.
that since I can't see and should have had my glasses on, so.
I have none, Ms. Cook, thank you.
Is there a motion to accept the agenda as presented?
Second.
A motion by Mrs. Creek, a second by Mr. Owenby to accept the agenda as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Now are we, the consent agenda?
Yes, ma'am. You've been provided the consent agenda. In the consent agenda for the approval of the out-of-district transfers along with the August 2020 financial statements. Didn't know if you wanted to pull any of those out for any discussion or if you wanted to approve the consent agenda as submitted.
We can approve them as presented if we don't have any discussion on it.
Yes.
Does any?
That's just the transfers and the financial reports.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Hutchinson,
I'll second.
a second by Mr. Ramos to approve the consent agenda, which contains the out-of-district transfers and the August 2020 financial statements. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
So as a point of clarification, on any given month, we can or cannot approve this, and if we have additional discussion.
You can always pull them out. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank
Ms. Clay, would, if it's okay, if it pleases the President, would you mind to come to the podium for additional clarifications? I know it's new, it's different.
So on the consent agenda, you can either approve it without discussion. The items that will be there would be items that typically would not need discussion. But if you see something that you want to discuss, you're welcome to pull that off. So once you pull that off, you can either pass the remaining items without discussion and then discuss the item that you pull off separately, or you can discuss the item and then go back and approve it wholesale. So you have that option every month, no matter what's on it.
I know typically we may not do every month, but we'll have some questions about the financials or comments or whatever.
Yes, so if,
Come back to next month, say, for example, you know.
Or you can you pull it to the bottom of the agenda to the, where we
you
would
could
discuss
actually pull it
financial?
right where it is on the agenda, ask Mr. Hayes to come up, answer questions, and then decide what your next step would be as far as approving it or moving it somewhere else.
This is just put in to help everything move a little bit faster.
Yes,
Okay.
just an efficiency mechanism.
Does anyone have any more questions or concerns? Hmm?
I'm a fan. Okay, good.
You're a fan of anything that moves. Dr. Cleveland?
Good. Thank you so much. It's good to be back in September. Our first introduction here, letter A, is recognition of partnerships. I'd like to introduce Mr. Damon Donnell. You all know Damon. Damon has spearheaded many projects coming forward in the district, and we're pleased to have him. So, Mr. Donnell, if you're ready.
Thank you, members of the board, and Dr. Cleveland. I wanted to start with a famous quote by Helen Keller where she says, alone we can do so little, but together we can do so much. And I think about that sometimes, especially with partnerships that we have in Springdale. In the Springdale School District, we're so thankful for the community partnerships that we've built over the last 40 years. And tonight, I'd like to spotlight 6 partnerships specifically related to COVID-19 and say thank you for these partnerships. So our first partnership that will be on the screen in just a moment is Tyson Foods and George's for their mass donations to Springdale students and families. We want to thank Tyson Foods and George's for their partnering with Springdale Public Schools. Next, I'd like to thank the NAACP and Cargill for their donations of masks and financial support to Springdale students and families. Thank you for the partnerships, NAACP and Cargill, for these partnerships. And lastly, I'd like to thank Salem Lutheran and the Arkansas Children's Hospital Northwest for their donations of masks to Springdale students and families, and thank them for their partnerships with Springdale Public Schools also. I'm reminded, as I conclude, of something my mom always used to say to me, and she instilled in me. I can hear her saying it as I'm about to say it to you, as she'd say, never underestimate the power of thank you. And so I want to end with that and just ask that if the board has any questions or any comments or anything.
We're very thankful for all of these organizations and businesses for helping our students. How have we gone about distributing masks?
So we're in the phase right now to where every secondary student, grades 6 through 12, have been distributed 2 masks so far. 2 masks from the Springdale School District. In the elementary, we're a little short on masks right now, not because we have not procured those masks, it's just the shipping process is taking quite some time to get. We should have all that taken care of this week.
Great.
So we're in a great position for that.
Now, when you say mask, are you talking about the Gators?
I'm
and
talking regular masks.
Regular masks.
Yes.
So are we still giving Gators to the?
So we're discussing that right now. As you know, back in, I think it was August the 7th, the Duke study came out, said, masks or Gators are bad. Then I think it was the 17th, another study came out and said, hey, they're not so bad. And then the Arkansas Department of Health kind of got involved with that. So right now we're just, at this moment, the Arkansas Department of Health strongly discourages that unless you double them up. So we're just visiting about what the next step needs to be. Yes.
Can we not
Don't
just
worry
tell
about it,
students
sorry.
to
It's
double
like
them up
this
in what they
target that's
do?
just
Yeah.
moving everywhere. So,
It's nuts. Okay.
okay, thank you guys. Appreciate
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Item B, a communications update. I know we've had Mr. Jones in front of you a few times over the last couple of months, but tonight's very special because he's going to get to introduce your team that's working in the communications department. We're very pleased and proud of each one of them and thankful they're here. Mr. Jones?
Thank you, Dr. Cleveland, and thank you, school board. Tonight is really an exciting time to be able to show you the evolution of our communications office. And we'll get to introducing these fine folks over here momentarily, but it's always good to start with good news. So we got some stuff up here for you to look at. For the 3rd year in a row, Springdale Schools video productions programs have won the majority of the Mid-America Emmys. So this year, we had the great honor of winning 8 out of 13 categories. Very proud of Travis Sherman at Harbor High School and Rochelle Nichols at Springdale High School. And as an added bonus, we also won 8 out of 16 honorable mentions. So if you look up there real close, you guys can see Nick Luttrell's name up there like 1,000,000 times because he's awesome, of course. And Sam Lewandowski and all those guys, they just work so hard. I'm just so proud of Rochelle and Travis. And soon I know Craig Pasquenzo from Don Tyson will be joining us up there as well. Also, we, in an effort to be timely and transparent, the Springdale School Systems Communications Office created a COVID-19 webpage. Ms. Clay, I know will be going through this a little bit more in detail, but I just wanted to give you kind of an overview. Dustin Mapes, who's over here, made that for us. So we'll have daily numbers updates, weekly updates, but we also have really important things on there like best practices, and it's in multiple languages, and it's easily accessible. It's right on the front page. And we're actively keeping it updated. We launched it about a week and a half ago, and it already has 20,000 hits.
Wow.
So that shows you that people are there wanting to get that information. So this was really neat for me. Schaefer, everybody knows Rick. He's back here. There he is. So Rick's been really doing a good job of keeping the media engaged with the Springdale school system. In August, we were in local media 20 out of 31 days, which then Rick, as you know, who knows everything about statistics, shared with me, Trent, 8 of those days were weekends. And I was like, oh,
That's awesome.
nice. So we were in local media 20 out of 23 days in August. We were in local TV, radio, print, English, and Spanish. So that's just helping us to do what Dr. Cleveland and you want us to do, which is be transparent, be honest, get information out there timely in multiple languages. And notice here on the picture too, this is cool. We got coverage, remember when Harbor went to Jinx? We got coverage in the Tulsa market from a Springdale grad, Ashley and Grace Brothers. So that was kind of cool. That was kind of fun, you know. Okay, so let's introduce you to our team. Guys, go ahead and stand on up here and let's come up here. So this is our communications team. It is our charge every day, and we get to do this, I hope, in a fun way, but we work very hard to be timely, honest, transparent, thoughtful, to represent all the different voices and all the different backgrounds in our city. And these are all really great professionals. So if you want, they're each going to talk, but on the screen is kind of what their emphasis areas are. So first up is public relations, and that's Rick Schaefer, and introducing Leslie Orozco.
Well, good evening, and we have had a lot of media coverage. A lot of it's because of the circumstances right now, and I want to welcome back Dave Perosic of the Democrat Gazette. He's been working on a lot of different major feature stories, so we haven't had him at our board meetings lately, so it's good to have David back. And I know he's working on several stories involving our district. It's great to work with them. And I'm going to turn it over to Leslie. She's new. She is absolutely great at all social media, and that's what she's doing for us, plus some other things.
Good evening. Thank you so much. First of all, I want to say thank you, Dr. Cleveland, and thank you, board, for this opportunity. I'm really, really blessed to be here. Graphic design and photography are actually some of my greatest passions, so I'm excited to use that for Springdale. And I think this is going to be a great year, and I feel very lucky to be part of the best communications team in the state of Arkansas. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're glad you're here.
Well done. So Leslie, if you've seen the Thank a Teacher, that's what Leslie's been doing, the photos. She's been putting those together, so that's really awesome. And some of these guys you'll recognize, Seth Biazzo and Dustin Mapes. We also just added Mike Day on the team. So this is our media team. Seth, Dustin, and Mike, come on up here.
Hello. Thank you, Dr. Cleveland. Thank you, board. I'm Dustin. This is the start of my 4th year here at Springdale Schools. I'm actually a former student at Springdale Schools. I graduated from Harbor about 12 years ago. I'm incredibly proud of the work we've done these last 3 years. I'm looking forward to growing with the team this next year. This is a wonderful, creative team, and I'm honored to work with them. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Seth Bialzo. I've worked closely with most of you. This is my 6th year. I was in Trent's class 10 years ago. He got me started in this career. Pretty much I just want to say thank you to the school board and thank you to administration. It makes it really easy to showcase an excellent schools when our school district truly is very excellent. So thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mike Day. I got a journalism and activism type of background, focused on film. Met Trent at Bentonville Film Festival, actually, and we've been linked ever since. So when he gave me the opportunity to join the team, join the district, I couldn't refuse. So thank y'all for having me.
Welcome.
See, they're the best. They're the best. I know. That's great. I know. I mean, everybody tells you that you should have fun at work and love it. Well, these guys make it easy. So this one's really important. I'm very proud of this. We added Maribel Tapia, Estris Valdez, and Anita Iban into our team as well, and we are rounding out coverage in multiple different languages. So these 3 are awesome, and they do great work. So please welcome Maribel Tapia, Estris Valdez, and Anita Iban.
Good evening. My name is Maribel Tapia, and I'm very proud to be part of a team that values diversity, inclusion, and that is working actively to bridge the language communication gap. And thank you guys in the school board and Dr. Cleveland for your support in helping us achieve this.
Hello. My name is Eshes Valdez. I'm 21 years old. I graduated from Harbor in 2017, and now being back and being a part of the communications team with Trent Jones is truly a blessing. Thank you, Dr. Cleveland. Thank you to the school board for the opportunities you guys give us.
Thank you.
Good evening. I am Anita Iban, and I have been a district employee for about 23 years. We used to have a show called Marshallese TV a few years ago, and we used to give out information and bring in experts and specialists and talk to Marshallese families in both, in our language, native language. And this year, I'm so glad that we have that back in the district. Thank you, Trent, and thank you, Dr. Cleveland, and everyone that has played a part in bringing this back, because I know the Marshallese community really needs this. Thank you.
Thank you.
The Springdale Schools Communications team. Well, there's many, but the major downside of having to wear this is you can't see how much I'm smiling. I love it. If I'm smiling with my eyes, I hope you can tell it. Every day, these guys make it amazing. I love this team, and really thank you, Dr. Cleveland, for helping us to get here where we are. And so we just want to say thank you. We're always available. If you need anything, if you have ideas, if you need to process, anything you need, you know where I am, and I'll help you as fast as I possibly can.
Great.
Wonderful job.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job.
Well, hello there.
There's the air. It's hot.
Okay, so if you remember last month, we had a screencastify from Miss Carol Turley at Springdale High School who highlighted the 12 international baccalaureate diploma recipients. I have a really, really excellent update for you all. Since the initial scoring took place, additional evidences and artifacts were examined, and 5 additional candidates have now been awarded the IB diploma, which brings our total to 17, meaning that 77% of the 2020 SHS IB diploma candidates were awarded. This is by far the highest percentage in school history, and so we are just beyond ecstatic.
Just awesome.
Yes, and the 5 students, I have their names here. Jim Angeles, Adon Garcia, Osmara Rivas, Tremel or TJ Sanders Jr., and Courtney Thompson. And so we are so very proud of them and so excited for Springdale High School and the entire IB staff and program. So, yay.
That's great. Thank you. Ms. Cook, I believe that's a record number of IB.
How many candidates were there? 22, so 17 out of 22. That's good.
That's great, especially given the circumstances.
Yes, a lot of hard work at SHS, so.
That's impressive.
Okay, we've gotten to item D, opening of schools. And as all of you are keenly aware, this has been one of the most interesting, and certainly in my career, opening of schools ever.
I didn't even know we started.
You didn't? Wow.
It's so smooth.
Well, it has gone smoothly, considering the situation we're in, and I think it's because moms and dads were ready, kids were ready, teachers and administrators and others, bus drivers, everyone in the district were ready to see kids, although we knew we had some real significant hills to overcome. Those hills have not disappeared, they're still there, but the resiliency of the staff of this school district, the resiliency of the community is evident. Tonight we're going to go through our enrollments, our personnel, and then the major aspect of the meeting will be COVID-19 and how the school district is reacting, how the community is reacting, and how we are being proactive in that effort. So it's, as I call it, the COVID meeting, and it's what it is until it's not here anymore, right in this creek. And so our effort is to try to make it as best we can. So the first thing we want to talk about this evening in regard to enrollment is the timeline for student drops. It's changed a little bit. Mr. Hayes is in the room. I'd like to invite him to the podium Mr. Hayes is responsible for e-school and e-finance, and he would like to discuss with you a little bit some of the changes that have come from DESE in regard to when we drop students.
Yeah, every year, if a student has not attended for the first 10 days, then they are automatically dropped from our system. We can drop students earlier than that if a records request or something like that has been received by the district. But if the student just hasn't attended, then after 10 days, they are dropped from our roll. DESE has asked us not to do that this year. Instead, we're to mark them with a status called no-show, and we're supposed to leave them as an active record through the 30th of September. As y'all know, school started late this year, so our 10th day was just Friday anyway. So we will be keeping them on the rolls until September. However, if they do not show up in between now and then they will be dropped at that time, and it is retroactive back to the first of the school year. We receive funding based on students being enrolled, and so we would receive no funding for those students if they have never shown up at our campuses. Any questions on that?
You know what the number is of?
Well, I don't. As I said, the 10th day was Friday, so today will be the starting of cleanup, where we go in and we have to mark those students that have not been here for 10 days. And it sounds like a pretty easy task. However, with a school system our size, the comings and goings, it's very fluid. So registrars will start cleanup this week and start moving students to that status. So I don't have one for you this evening. But if we could, do y'all have any questions about what I've just gone over? This is new to us. The state has asked us to do this. I think they're going to do a poll on Friday because I think that perhaps all across our state there are students that haven't come to school yet, more so than in previous years, and so they're wanting to do a poll across the state to see to what extent that is. If I could move to enrollment for just a moment. A pivotal number in enrollment every school year is the October 1 number. That is the number that our free and reduced, when we've been hitting the 70%, it's based on our October 1 number. So it's a very important number in school business. Last year, our October 1 enrollment number was around 22,100, not including pre-K. So that's grades K through 12. Because we are still cleaning up our data and marking no-shows, things like that, we have just asked our principals to go in and tell us how many students have you seen or contacted, and you know they're coming. They may be, for example, they may be on home quarantine for now and they haven't attended yet. But you know they're coming or you've talked to them. How many is that? Our current number as of today is around 21,150. So we're down approximately 1,000 students from October 1 of last year. When I look at where those students are, obviously our kindergarten class is smaller than it traditionally is. Our current number for kindergarten is around 1,400, and last year we had 1,673 as of October 1. So kindergarten by itself is down 267 students. Other than that, it's kind of spread out grade by grade, 50, 75 per grade, 100 per grade, something like that. The numbers are continuing to go up slightly. So we'll just have to wait and see as we are contacting those students that we have not had records requests on or have not seen them, and as we reach out to those students and those families, which we've already tried to do, but we will up our efforts to make sure that those students are still in the area to see if we can help if there's a problem.
So there's any number of kind of reasons why they're not at school right now, except for the pandemic, just a whole host of reasons, right?
Yes. The easiest answer is we have received a records request, they've enrolled somewhere else. But in the absence of that, there could be a number of reasons as to why. So we're investigating those.
Can you send us the current active students from this time last year, from October 1 last year, so that we might compare?
You're talking about on a per grade basis?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a single report. I'll be happy to
Yeah,
send that to
that'd
you.
be great. Thank you.
Any other questions, Dr. Cleveland? Anything else you want me to cover about enrollment?
Well, pre-K and VIA.
Oh, yeah. Okay, our pre-K enrollment, last year we had around 1,300 students in pre-K. This year, due to the pandemic, our enrollment is down also in pre-K. We are currently at around 750 to 775. So therefore, we have reduced the program accordingly. Staff members that have moved into other areas to serve, a lot of them have moved to via DTSOI, as we have need for additional teachers there. So currently, I think we have 45 classrooms operating right now. So, and then VIA. Let's talk about VIA for just a moment. Our VIA enrollment right now is at 2,920. That represents about 14% of our student population. That's a lot of kiddos. And so we are serving those students through the Don Tyson School of Innovation. I think it's off to a good start. We are, as we've talked about, we're kind of building the plane as it's flying, but we're getting there. Dr. Cleveland, anything else you want me to mention about enrollment?
I think we're good to go to personnel.
Okay. All right. I did a single one-page summary for you guys on personnel. You can see the numbers are basically what they were last year. Due to the expansion of DTSOI, continuing to utilize we have more building to use, so we have expanded some fine arts positions there. We have also expanded some and added some CTE positions. And then on the classified staff, probably 16 of those, the difference in the new hires is due to we've hired additional staff to help with sanitation efforts with regard to COVID. And so other than that, it's, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them for you.
Just as an extra point, I know you all are aware of the CARES Act money. We have roughly about $4 million. Mr. Hayes is utilizing some of that money for the extra sanitation, if I can say it, sanitization of our facilities. And Mr. Hayes, you may want to just visit with him just a moment about that. I know, I don't know if Ms. Cook and I have discussed that before, but it is important how we're using those CARES Act monies.
Sure. Our portion from the state was $4.2 million. The 200,000, the $0.2 million is going to private schools that have chosen to share in the money with us. And so we basically have $4 million then to spend. We are purchasing technology, updated technology for our students, and so many of our students are either doing blended or completely virtual. So we're ordering new technology. And we are also hiring some personnel that are directly related to COVID that we can pay out of that. And then we've bought a lot of chemicals to be used and sanitation supplies to be used in our efforts to keep everyone safe, as well as PPE for staff and students.
Any questions, or you okay?
Okay, let me segue real quick, if I could, Dr. Cleveland, as I see the next thing is about child nutrition. As y'all know, this is the time of year when I start trying to make everyone as anxious as I am about reaching that wonderful 70% mountain that we climb each and every year. The deadline has traditionally been October 1st. That's when they take a snapshot of our students and their meal status, and we have to have 70% in order to qualify for the additional monies for ESA. Just to give you all a refresher, if you're not at 70%, The number is $516 a student, and if you are at 70% or above, the amount is $1,051 per student. So it doubles. So it's really high stakes. It's a difference of $8 million versus $16 million. The last, I believe, 4 years, we have exceeded 70%. This past year, we were at 71.2. We've never been very much above 70, right there, but 71.2. I think our current number as of today is in the 40s, low 40s. So we have some work to do. This is not new for us. This is pretty common. So we will be working hard to visit with families, communicate to them the importance of completing a free and reduced meal application.
But the problem, if everybody's getting free meals, there's no pressure to fill it out, correct?
That's true. Yes, that's true. So we have a big opportunity in front of us. The current, as the commissioner's memo is next to be discussed about child nutrition, as you've already heard, they are basically extending the summer meal feeding program. In the summer meal program, anyone that's under the age of 18 may eat for free regardless of your meal status. And so they are extending that into the fall semester. So it will end currently in December. So we're going to be talking to families, explaining to them how filling out that application helps our district as well as helping them. And also by doing it now, they won't have to worry about it mid-year in the event that that program is not continued, which we don't know if it will be or not. So yeah, we have some challenges in front of us, but we've met it the last 3 or 4 years. Hopefully we can continue to do that. Another obstacle that I'm concerned about is the number of our children that qualified in the past are signed up for virtual, and so they're not on site anymore. So that would be another challenge for us to try to reach them and get them to understand the importance of completing the form. But we can do it. We can do it.
If they are virtual, are they allowed to come to?
Yes,
school
any
and get
student,
meal?
yes, any student, well, it could be any student, or any child 18 and under. In fact, I think they were talking about some kids came through with their parents, and we were able to feed the kids, and I think they were preschool age or something. And they stopped in at one of our schools, and we can claim it as a reimbursable meal. So, yeah, it doesn't matter if they're virtual or on site, they qualify.
Wonderful. Thank you, Ms. Cunning.
Sure.
You want to introduce Ms. Smith, since she's here?
I'm sorry, this is Gina Smith. I wondered if you were here. Okay, I'm gonna
It's
let Gina-
hard to
I'm gonna
tell
let
people
Gina-
with masks on.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me here tonight. Dr. Cleveland invited me to share with you about the different waivers that we have available to us this year. Like Kelly said, pretty much, I'm sorry, let me click over. The waivers that were made available to us this summer and last spring have extended now into the school year. So the first one is that all children that are area eligible closed or enrolled sites can serve meals for free. So typically in a summer setting, if we had students here at school and we didn't open it up to the public, then we would then have to ring up our meals according to the meal status. So we were able to waive that and serve all of our students here at the free rate. And we don't have to have our doors open to the public, which is nice. So, then also we have the mealtime flexibility. And this came in handy a lot this summer because we were able to hand out breakfast and lunch and breakfast and lunch for 2 days at a time. So and it was easier on our parents, and they only had to come up once and they received 4 meals at a time. Now currently we are only handing out breakfast and lunch because we have virtual kids staying at home, and we have blended students that are here maybe Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and home on Tuesday and Thursday. So there's not a way for us to tell right now. So we hand out 1 day's worth of meals at a time, and looking for other ways to, we've had a lot of requests for the 5 days at a time, and we're looking at how that would work for us, but at this time we're at 1 day. Okay, and then we have our meal pattern flexibility, which this is not an issue for us, but it could be in the future if we weren't able to access fresh produce, then we can omit a vegetable serving if need be. And let's see, we also have a waiver for the non-congregate feeding. So that means that they can take the food away from the school. They're not required to eat it on site. This may come in handy for our supper program. So this is something that we'll look at in the future for them. They may pick up some activities to do at home, grab a snack, take it with them. So that will definitely be beneficial in the future. We can allow our parents and guardians to pick up meals for our students and for their younger children, like he mentioned. So they don't have to give us any income information. They just let us know, like a last name or a name of some students, because we're doing a pre-order right now. And then we hand them their number of meals that they pre-ordered, and they can sign up for a week at a time. So it's been working pretty well. We are hoping to increase. We've had only about 70 students, so we've really got to get the word out and have our virtual students show up for school meals. So the nice part about that is that as they've contacted me with questions, I've been able to talk to them about filling out the free and reduced form. Mm-hmm. So I feel like sometimes that one-on-one connection with our families really helps. Okay, and then we also, let's see. So basically, this waiver, we're able to extend the summer program through the school year. So this would even go into effect if we had to pivot and everyone was at home for virtual learning instead of on-site, then it would give us a lot of flexibility in serving our students at all of our locations. It wouldn't just be locations that we've applied for summer. It would, it would cover all 29 locations if we need to. So that's great. The downfall, of course, to our the waiver is that now there's not an urgency to fill out the free and reduced form based on meal status. But what this means for us is that, of course, all student meals can be served and claimed at the free rate, which for our program, we've only been serving, typically we'd serve 10,000 for breakfast. Mm-hmm. This year, so far, it's only been an average of 5,000. Lunch, we've been serving in the past 16,000. This year, it's 10,000. So we've seen a big decrease in our participation. We feel like at first, maybe students were scared, so parents were scared, so they packed their lunch. We also know that we have a lot of students off-site. We have 3,000, what did you say, 3,000? 2,900 of our virtual students, plus our blended students, so that takes our average down per day. So for our program, to be able to claim all of our meals served at the free rate will keep us financially stable. And breakfast and lunch can be picked up at the same time. So once again, that's convenient for parents. Also about the guardians picking up at the curbside location. We've even had a neighbor pick up for their neighbor children, and that works out great. Meal counts can be tallied rather than collecting names. And right now we're serving to a lot of classrooms. So the teachers have had the responsibility of telling us who ate lunch. Mm-hmm. So now they can just say, okay, I served 10 meals,
and it's just a lot faster for them and for us. Curbside locations can serve all children 18 and under. So we're also taking care of the whole family, or all the children in the family, rather than just the students at school. Okay, so on this, to the side there, it says lunchtime craziness. All of these flexibilities are important because we are just all over the map with our serving. We have 10 sites that are serving lunch to the classroom. So it's a lot of packing that goes into that and a lot of organization. We have 8 sites serving in the classroom and in the cafeteria. We have 9 sites that are serving in the cafeteria but spreading out to additional locations to eat. I've heard some good feedback from our students on that one. They like to spread out. 4 sites are serving only in the cafeteria but with more lunch periods. And then 4 sites are serving curbside breakfast and lunch. So our team has done a great job of pivoting. They're being flexible. And I've just been so proud of them ever since we closed our doors back in March. They've done a great job. There on the left, we have some ladies serving curbside at Bayari. Most days at Bayari, we served over 300 students. So that was 600 lunches and 600 breakfasts. In the middle there, you can see the students eating at Lee Elementary. So we have just a few students in the cafeteria and the rest are in their classrooms. To the right, you have Springdale High School. We're serving off of a breakfast cart right outside the band room. So not only can the kids have breakfast in the morning, but they're not missing out on their band practice. So that's been something new we've added there.
Is eating in the classroom harder for y'all, or is it flowing pretty?
The harder part is the packing. So, and also the trash. So our maintenance department has been great to help with that. They've pitched in with hauling out the trash, but that's been the hardest part, just the time that it takes to pack, and definitely the increase in trash. The extra times in the cafeteria, so maybe we could change from 2 lunches to 4 lunches, which I think is out of all of our middle schools. It doesn't seem like it would be that much harder, but it's harder because you're setting up for 4 different lunch periods, and then also you have all the tables to wipe.
Yep.
So even though 2 children may have sat at that table, you still wipe the whole table. So that's been a challenge. We have currently 30 open positions in child nutrition department. We have 30 substitutes that are working every day. But then when one reports a COVID issue and has to be quarantined, then it really takes a toll on us. So, do you have any questions for me?
You were great, Ms. Smith. I have to brag on her. She's always willing to do whatever the need is, and she's really quick to say yes and really hesitant to say no when it comes to serving students. And that's the kind of employee that you have in Springdale everywhere. And so we're very, very proud of Ms. Smith, and we're thankful she's here.
Okay,
Thank you.
I like to recruit Randy to help in the cafeteria. He makes a really good guacamole.
Well, there you go.
My
Thank
future
you.
daughter-in-law brings that to your work a couple
Yeah.
times, hasn't she?
She has, so if you want guacamole for your next
Yeah.
potluck, call Randy Hutchinson. Thank you.
Is it okay to call Jeremy up now?
Yes.
Mr. White, you're ready? We have Mr. White coming forward. As you know, it's been really interesting trying to prepare for the school year. Now it's become even more interesting to continue every day with the sanitization efforts and all that it entails. Mr. White really loves to talk, so we
We're going to ask you a lot of
Kind of slow him
questions
down a
tonight.
bit. So
I'm
this-
ready. I can answer questions.
It's time. He's doing great, so.
So as you guys know, all the support service departments work really close together, and that's even, this year, it's even more than normal. So I've got a few changes that we've made, this year. In the custodial department, we are helping with child nutrition more because they have more trash, more scattered out. We've got 12 custodians that clean 140 buses twice a day. So that's been a big task. We've added custodians having to wipe down playgrounds multiple times a day. And that depends, every building's schedule's different. Their recess schedule's different, lunch schedules are different. We've had to shift our central laundry, where we're doing more pickups and more deliveries a week just to cover cleaning all the supplies that we need at all the buildings. And then we've added a crew of people that's on call pretty much 24/7, where if we get a positive case and I get a call at 10 o'clock at night, we can go clean it. If we get a call on Saturday or Sunday, we can go clean it and have it ready for the next day. The maintenance has also changed. I've got several maintenance staff that are having to drive buses due to the shortage of drivers. And we've had maintenance staff in trucks going around breakfast time and lunchtime picking up trash and hauling it out for the custodians and the child nutrition workers. We've had to modify our warehouse schedules to meet the additional needs for the kitchen and the office and the custodial needs. They've needed more supplies more often. And I've had to put maintenance guys into the warehouse to keep those schedules on time. And then transportation. The first week was very challenging, but we made it. The bus drivers have done great. They've had to adapt their routes. They've had to learn which kids they have which days. And they've had to learn how to sanitize their buses between drop-offs and pickups. The drivers, they are excited about the new fueling station. It's well underway. I don't know if anybody's drove by, but we've got new pumps. So they're looking forward to that. And then we actually started shuttles and transfers today in transportation. So that's been a big thing we've been trying to get to and get done. And the drivers, they've also had to change it up. We have to do seating charts now, just to have on record, where if we get a positive case, we can go back and see who was in, within 6 feet of the possible positive.
So a kid has to sit in the same spot each day,
Yep.
to and from? Wow.
Yeah, and that way, if Kathy calls me with a positive, we can go back, instead of having to pull tape, we can know who was sitting within 6 feet of the person. And we're down, we run about 100 routes a day, and then 15 activity routes per day is about our average this year. Normally, it's about 122 routes a day and 18 activities, so it's down a little bit, and a lot of that's because we've consolidated routes, so they may be running 2 or 3 routes per bus. Do you guys have any questions?
I've got probably a really broad, general question. How did you determine, like, your sanitation protocol on your buses and the frequency? How was that determined for us, or did we determine?
The Department of Health has some guidelines, and then we've, Wayne Buttram, that's over our custodial department, he's came up with a good plan to, when the custodians get on a bus, they're actually scrubbing down the whole bus with a quat stat. The drivers are using a Fresh 15 spray between kids. Like if they may take a load of elementary kids and drop them, and then spray their bus, turn around, go back and pick up a load of middle school or junior high or high school kids and run them.
Well, I guess what I'm getting is, it might be recommended, or maybe some good data to have, is to go back after you've done some sanitation protocol on a bus or the food service, and go do some contact swabbing to check the efficacy of your sanitation practices, and maybe that could either lead you to needing to do more, or maybe needing to do less, and as long as you, I mean, that's what we did in the food industry.
Sure.
When I was with Tyson, so we did what we call food contact services every day on different pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
And I would see that it might be beneficial to you down the road, especially on your bus sanitation or just your general table cleaning. You might need to do more, you might be able to do less. If you had good data, that would tell you what your,
Sure.
how well it's going.
Yeah.
For lack of better words.
Yeah.
Mr. Owen, did you have to hire an outside vendor for that, or did y'all have it within the company? How did you do
We
that?
had internal lab, but we also had third-party labs going to verify. Because typically, you're always going to get questions of validity on your data.
Sure.
So you always had an outside lab come in and balance our numbers with how they.
Gotcha.
I just thought of that.
Yeah, we've got a company we use in the
I'm
classrooms.
not trying to get you to do it more or do it less. I
Yeah.
just think it would help you build confidence in how well the program is working, and could lead you to different
Sure.
process efficiencies than where you are right now.
Yeah, okay, yeah. We've got a third party that we use in the classroom, so.
And with us being in the food manufacturing part of the state, there's probably some good resources that we get to help us.
Help out.
Sure. Any other questions? All right.
So I have one for you.
Okay.
The maintenance staff that's driving the bus, do they not have to require any licensing at all for that?
So-
Or they have to be in the process of, or how does that work?
So several of my maintenance guys have CDLs with a passenger endorsement. And we have several maintenance vehicles that require a CDL. But a lot of them I've hired out of other districts, and they had that passenger endorsement. So they carry it, and they just kept it. So we've been utilizing them mornings and afternoons just to get the kids there as quick as possible.
So if we're moving maintenance people to busing and to sanitation, are we struggling on the maintenance side of things, or are we still keeping up with that too?
We're keeping up pretty good. We've got about 200 work orders in progress right now, and about 400 preventive maintenance work orders in progress, which is pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. So we're keeping up. We've pretty much stopped all projects. You know, we're just doing work orders.
It has to be done.
The sanitation and disinfecting has kind of become our number one priority. So we've just been moving staff wherever we need them. You know, no matter what department it is, wherever they need to go, that's where they go.
You just get the job done.
We get it done. There for a while, we had the trash dump. We couldn't keep up with trash, so one of the reasons, the benefits having maintenance do is they have trucks, so they could bring back the overflow back to our dumpsters at the shop. We keep construction dumpsters there, so we don't get any overages for Kelly. So,
Is that just because of the packaging that has to be used for the
Yeah.
food?
yeah, we've had to modify. A lot of it was teachers are coming back, they're moving rooms, having boxes. A lot of them have been getting rid of soft seating, couches and stuff we've been hauling out. So a lot of that we have to pick up anyway and bring back to the construction dumpsters, but it's getting better. We're not having to haul trash as much now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Necessity's the mother of invention. So they've done some really great work. Speaking of great work, our in-house counsel is amazing. If everyone is, but she's really great, and she's experienced some things tonight or over the last several weeks that have helped us all grow, including her. So since it's COVID-19 related issues night, Ms. Kendra will lead us through talking about our efforts, as you all laid out for me originally, to be very transparent, to be timely in our efforts, right, and especially in communication, and to overall have accuracy. So Ms. Kendra Clay has helped us come forward in all of those areas. Ms. Kendra?
All right, here we go. So what started as ensuring compliance with local health directives and administering the new COVID leave provisions has morphed into a full-blown COVID response that touches literally all areas of our district. I cannot take credit for this at all. When I see that quote there, "We are all in this together," that is so true, and that our district team is all in this together and has offered input into this website. And then our community as well has been absolutely phenomenal in supporting, providing information to us as we navigate what responding to COVID-19 looks like. So as we started, just before school started, and we were attempting to mesh all of the different pieces of COVID response together, Trent Jones had the brilliant idea of saying, let's create a website that's linked to our homepage that just has everything COVID there. So if you haven't spent any time on this website, I would encourage you to do that. You can go to it at go.sdale.org/COVID. There's a link on the district's homepage that will take you there, and this is where you will find everything COVID related. On the left-hand side there, you'll see that you can click the button for Spanish, and it automatically translates the website to Spanish. Unfortunately, we don't have that same luxury with Marshallese, but we included some Marshallese videos that explain different portions of the website. So our Marshallese speakers can access the website as well, and those videos explain some different aspects. The first piece on the website are two sets of, well, went a little too far there, two sets of Google Forms. And I'm going to talk about what happens on the front end and the back of these forms. The one that says, have you tested positive for COVID-19? We ask that any staff or student who receives positive COVID-19 test results fill out this form. When they fill out the form, it has information about when they were last on campus, do they have symptoms, where they were tested, even what kind of test they took. That matters some to the medical community, reliability. So all that information is there. When a family or a staff member fills that out, it automatically populates to a spreadsheet that alerts myself, Damon Donnell, Kathy Launder, and Monica Witchen that there is a positive case reported, and the response starts immediately. What that looks like most times is that Monica Witchen, who is our assistant nursing director, she works closely alongside Kathy Launder, either Monica or Kathy calls that family immediately, confirms the information that's in the spreadsheet that they reported, when they were last on campus is key, when their test results were received, when symptoms started. They can then notify the family, return to school dates. They have lists of things to do to isolate the person who is positive from other family members, if that's possible. Talk to them about when they need to seek additional medical care if their symptoms develop or get worse. And so they go through a whole process with them to get all the information that we need to start our process of contact tracing, basically. And to make sure that they're safe and know what to do next as far as their health is concerned. So let's say that they get notified that a student is positive. That next step is to call the principal immediately. This is really, it's not 24/7, but it's pretty close to it. So on Sunday afternoon or on Labor Day yesterday, when we start getting reports of positive cases, this process has to start immediately because we want to make sure that we've identified the people who don't need to come to school the next day. So the call goes out to the principal that says, hey, we've gotten a report that this student, we'll use the example of student, it's the same process with a staff member, that this person is positive. We need to know everyone who was within 6 feet for 15 or more minutes of this person in this time period. The time period that they're looking at is typically 48 hours before symptoms start. So sometimes that's helpful, in particular over the Labor Day holiday, because we had a few that the 48-hour window wasn't an on-campus period. It was over the weekend. But, you know, most days kids are on campus, so we start the process of identifying those students. Now, you may say, how in the world do you know who was within 6 feet for 15 or more minutes? I know that it's not an exact science, but our buildings are doing a phenomenal job of keeping seating charts to where they're able to go and measure where a particular student sits and knows that any person at these tables or these desks would have been within 6 feet for 15 or more minutes, to the best of our knowledge. Now, once we have those people that we've identified as within 6 feet for 15 or more minutes are called probable close contacts. So as the school district, we only have the ability to identify probable close contacts. We don't officially label them close contacts. That's the role of the health department. Now, part of this process that is not working how we thought it would work, initially, when the school districts were trained on this process, we were told that the health department would come in behind us and call all of those probable close contacts, have conversations with them, and then confirm them as close contacts. So the health department could ask more questions to determine whether those people need to actually quarantine. As best we can tell, that piece of the process is not happening. So I can give you a personal story. My son, the Friday of the first week of school, I see him appear on the probable close contact list. So he was quarantined. He went back to school today, but we didn't get a phone call during that whole time period from the health department. Nobody contacted us except for the school district. And I wonder, I obviously know what that means, and that we are to keep him home away from other people quarantined, but I wonder if other people may just think, oh, my child can't go to school, and they don't understand that if they are a close contact, they don't need to be out in the community as well. So that's really a piece that Dr. Cleveland and I have had conversations about how do we fix that piece of the process. If the health department can't do it, can the school district have some additional authority to further investigate whether the people meet probable close contacts? And another thing to consider is that, so my son's in elementary school. He probably wouldn't be able to articulate how close he was to the person that was positive. But what if you have a high school student who is able to, although on a seating chart looks like they would meet that criteria of within 6 feet for 15 or more minutes, what if that high school student is able to say with 100% confidence, I was not within 6 feet for 15 or more minutes, to the point that that would allow them to go back to school? We just don't have that authority yet. I'm hoping that something changes in the process that will fix that for us, but that is one piece that is an issue that's not really something we have the authority to address at this time.
So the 6 foot though, so let's say Michelle and I are sitting here and one of us is positive. Is it 6 foot unprotected or 6 foot protected?
With or without a mask.
Okay.
So the wearing of the mask doesn't stop quarantine, but what we hope it does is stop the spread of COVID. So even though if Michelle turns up positive, you would be required to quarantine, we would hope that you wearing face masks would prevent the spread. And I'll talk a little bit about numbers in just a second, and we don't have great numbers to be able to hit on that
but
yet.
If I'm 6 foot 1 inch away from her, then I fall out of the probable category.
Yes, or if you were within 6 feet for 13 minutes, you fall out of that probable category. And that's standard. It's not something that we made up, or even from best I can tell, the health department made up. It appears to be a national standard that I don't really know where it came from, but that is the standard that's being used nationwide to identify those people that need to quarantine.
I have a quick question for you. So then, do probable contacts, do they have to quarantine for the full 2 weeks, or do they just quarantine until they get a negative test result?
That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that. So the probable close contacts have to quarantine 14 days from the last exposure. Positive or negative test results do not influence that. Actually, this is kind of a piece that is mind-blowing. A positive test could actually mean that you could come back sooner because you enter a different criteria if you come back positive, but a negative test result does not change your length of quarantine. So one other piece is, or a couple other pieces. Once we've identified those probable close contacts and those phone calls are made, principals have access to anybody from their building that is a positive or a probable close contact. They're likely going to know this because they're involved in the process, but they're able to quickly look at their sheet, see the name, and if they see Michelle walking up and know that she's still on quarantine, they're able to see her name, when she's supposed to be back, and then hopefully stop her at the door and call parents to come pick a student up if they're coming back too soon. After we have identified a positive, at this time, all schools are sending out a letter. Some are also doing this by robocall, recorded call that they may read the letter, that notifies their staff and all of the families in their building that there's been a positive case in the school. We're not able to go into a lot of detail. We're not able to say who the kid was, but we do hope that the transparency will make parents feel more confident in the process and more confident in the steps that are being taken. I don't know. We'll see. You know, we're just over 2 weeks into the school year, and so we'll get some feedback on whether that's too much, not enough, and we can monitor and adjust as we go. That is the theme of this whole process, is seeing what works and doesn't work and fixing the process as we go. So another form that you see a link to there has a member of your home tested positive for COVID-19. This actually gets a lot of response. Our community is doing a fantastic job of saying, hey, here's what's going on in my house, and my child may not be to school for this period of time, or here's what's going on in my house, does my child need to stay home from school? So the same process is when a family fills out that form, it goes through to Kathy Launder and Monica Witchen, and they're able to make personal phone calls to these families and get additional information and either say, yes, you're correct in keeping your child home. We'll make sure they're listed here with their return date, make sure that you're accessing their learning remotely. And principals also have access to this. At the same time, they're able to sometimes say, no, your child hasn't met the criteria of being a close contact. If, for example, someone may report that an extended family member tested positive, but the child hasn't been in contact with the extended family member. And so they can continue to come to school unless some people within their household test positive. So we're also able to have that conversation to hopefully keep the kids that can be in school without unnecessarily quarantining them. Okay, so just below the forms that come through, and also we have down at the bottom of this webpage, if someone doesn't want to fill out the form, doesn't have access to fill out the form, two things can happen. One, their building principals or whoever's in the office can fill out the form on their behalf. We have authorized that because we have a check process, and that Kathy can call and make sure all the information is correct. Or they can just call the nurse office directly, and you'll see the number there at the bottom. When you call that number, the very first option is if you have a COVID-related issue, press 1. And when you press 1, you usually get Monica or Kathy, unless they're on the phone calling people. So we feel like we've got a good process for people to report, and based on the numbers that are coming in, particularly on the exposure form, we feel like the word has gotten out and that people are using that form. So another piece of this website is the COVID daily numbers and also weekly numbers. So we have some restrictions on reporting numbers, and that the Arkansas Department of Health has told us not to report numbers less than 5 for privacy restrictions. So when we have cases over 5 on a particular day. They are reported here, and I'll click to show you. So for example, this was the report that we posted this morning. These were actually numbers from yesterday. You'll see, well, numbers from yesterday, but I'll tell you a little bit about that as well. 8 student and staff positive cases with probable close contacts of 91 identified, and then we list the buildings affected. So because we cannot identify less than 5, sometimes we have several days that we can't identify, we can't identify, we can't identify. We just add those up until they get over 5, and then we'll identify them all on a particular day. That's what happened here. So you'll see in the language below the buildings, on September 4th, 5th, 6th, we didn't have enough cases to report those individually, but when we got to the 7th, we made it over the 5 mark, so we were able to report all those cases on the 7th. So if you were to see so I'll just go to the 6th and show you. If you were to see this that says, basically, we've had several days running where we don't have enough cases to report, but we'll report those on the next day that we can. And these go back to the beginning of, to August 20, well, the numbers go back to August 24th. I believe our first daily report was on the 26th or the 27th. So go ahead.
Before you go any further, the 18 that the news is so excited to report, is that a cumulative total? Is that a...
So the health department numbers have been a little bit tricky for us to decode. Some of the numbers, depending on where you're looking, sometimes the numbers, for example, the ACI data, the Arkansas Center for Health Improvement, has some detailed community information. My understanding of how they report some of their Springdale School District information is that it's actually number of cases of people that reside in the boundaries of Springdale School District. So they may have no connection to our school at all. They just live within our boundaries. Now, the Arkansas Department of Health, starting last week, started reporting school district numbers. I don't know exactly the time frame, when those cases are from, if there's some from over the summer that are just now getting here. It's hard to decode exactly what data they're looking at as far as the cumulative cases in particular. The active cases have been roughly where I think we would be as far as active cases, but again, it's hard for us on this side to decode exactly which cases they're looking at. Another piece that we just really don't have the capacity to do is to decipher the active cases. So active cases, my understanding, is a health-related definition. That means the person is still within a certain time period of positive results or exhibiting symptoms, which is part of what the health department does with their contact tracing. We're just not tracking at that level, and so determining who's still active or not is something I just don't think we're equipped to do. So I'm not saying that the health department numbers are incorrect. I just don't know exactly where they're coming from and how they line up with dates as far as our students. Another thing that I will say too, if we have a student, say a student is virtual and they report to us that they are positive and they have not been on our campus since March, remember part of what we've asked is last time on campus. We are considering that they do not affect our school district operations because they haven't been on campus, haven't been around any teachers, haven't been around any other students, and we are not reporting those in our daily numbers. So some of the health department data may include virtual students who haven't been on our campus, so don't really affect our operations. The second piece, and we just started doing this on Friday, we'll update it every Friday. This was actually a 2-week report because we just started doing it, is breaking down cases for the week by staff and student positives. Let's see if I can scroll. You'll see most do not have any identifying numbers. because again, we cannot report cases that are less than 5. The only exception is DTSOI has had 5 staff members that have been positive, so their 5 is up there. The totals are accurate in that 13 staff and 12 students have been reported positive, and actually the number today would be 17 staff members and 19 students have been reported positive. Based on those reports, there have been a total of 276 students and staff members that have been quarantined as probable close contacts. Some of those are already coming back. So, we're a little over 2 weeks into school, and so some of those based on exposure time, et cetera, are starting to come back. So that is not the number that is out today. That's the total that has been asked to quarantine for any period of time. Now, something that I think is really interesting that I would love for someone who has a lot more experience with data to really dig down into and study for us as we proceed through this is whether we're seeing spread within our school or whether it's exposure from the outside that the kids and staff just happen to come at school. I don't think we have any statistically significant numbers right now to be able to do that, but I will say that when we've quarantined 276, but our positive numbers are only totaling 36, to me that's promising that the spread is not happening within the school, that it's somewhere else. To me, this says that our teachers are doing a fantastic job of spacing and enforcing wearing masks, or the theory that it's not as transmittable as we once thought. I don't know. I really am interested in what the data plays out as far as student-to-student transmission, student-to-staff, and staff-to-staff transmission. I will say I don't have enough numbers at all to comment on too. But I will say today we have 0 evidence of any student-to-student transmission at school.
There is a lot of data that's just not getting publicized about student-to-student transfer, especially in the younger kids, and student-to-staff.
Oh.
You just have to go find it.
No, and it
doesn't get the clicks the bad news gets, but it's out there.
Right. No, and I've seen some of it. I'm really interested in our data and what it looks like for our kids.
Here's what I think is really encouraging for our staff. And we probably have a little more time to get past, but our staff has been together since the 11th of August.
Mm-hmm.
Am I correct in that?
That's great.
So there's some really good 4 or 5 weeks now that they've all been together, and I think they're doing a fantastic job. I mean, we're biggest employer, one of the biggest employers in the state, and definitely up here. I think it's
Yeah, and I think it's important.
Good information, good numbers.
And one of the things I wish we should probably publish, and when the health department publishes information, something I wish they would put out is the number of people we're dealing with. So when you're dealing with 21,000 plus students and 3,000 plus staff members, to have numbers like this, I think is pretty impressive, and I'm going to knock on some wood and hope that we stay in this relatively low range. So again, we're updating the numbers daily. Right now, we're doing it 7 days a week. I don't know if we'll continue that or not, but it's working for now. The weekly numbers will be updated on Friday morning, every Friday morning. Dr. Smith is going to come in just a second to talk about the essential worker program. And then I'm going to wait till the bottom to talk about COVID leave for staff because there's some more information down there. But again, just trying to put everything COVID related here so that it's easy to find no matter who you are, parent, community member, staff member, you can find it all right here. So again, we link, we tell people to please self-report. We included the phone number and another link to the form there to hope that they'll do that. We've also included the process for notification. Parents are going to be notified, which we talked about. The affected families, of course, are getting phone calls because their students are being asked to quarantine. And then theoretically, the health department comes behind and gives further guidance. I think they are doing that for positive cases, maybe a few days out, but so far we're not seeing that on the probable close contacts. Before school started, Dr. Cleveland did this Q&A with Dr. Gary Wheeler, so we've included that there as well. That has some really good information about various aspects of COVID response. Additional resources, anything that you could possibly want to know, transportation, food service, how the attendance policy has changed, learning models, all the things that you've kind of seen as we led up to the opening of school. And then finally, the link to COVID-19 leave for employees. So one of the things that happened when this pandemic began is the federal government passed the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, which offered 10 days of leave for COVID-related illness and up to 12 weeks of leave if you didn't have childcare because school or daycare closures. So back in the summer, to try to help our employees understand exactly what this leave could be used for, we put out a screencastify. It's about 20 minutes long, but it's linked there if you want to watch it, that talks about the reasons for the COVID leave, how much you get paid, because it varies depending on the reason that you take the leave for. You could either get full pay or sometimes you get 2/3 pay. So we did our best to explain that where they could understand. And then also included the link to the form, another form, but it's really been very helpful in processing these, that an employee would fill out a COVID leave form if they need to request leave for this. This process is through me and then to the business office, so the business office knows how and when their paycheck should not be affected, is usually the case. They want to make sure they're not docking them for not being there on days that are COVID related. So we're working through making sure we have all the right information on COVID leave versus how absences are put into our system. Yes, so just when the federal COVID leave came out, it was pretty wide open in that you didn't have to have any documentation, you were just supposed to do it. Public employers were not getting any reimbursement for it that was available through payroll tax credit for private employers. And so it was pretty wide open. Just before school started, the governor announced state COVID leave, is what I call it, specific to state, to teachers and school employees in Arkansas, that offers them an additional 10 days of leave for COVID-related reason. Now, for those 10 days, we can get reimbursed, but we have to have documentation. And so, and it would be very simple if the reasons for the leave lined up perfectly, but they really don't. So there's kind of some different reasons for COVID leave through the state versus federal. And we do our best to track and make sure that we have documentation for as many of the state leave periods as we can so that we can get reimbursed for those. So an employee, if they meet the criteria, and you see them listed there are the state criteria for leave. If they've tested positive, if they're symptomatic and seeking a medical diagnosis, or if they're a probable close contact or close contact, then that qualifies them for the state COVID leave. We ask them for documentation. Most of the time they have something and we're able to code those as state COVID leave. If they used all of that and still needed additional time, they would go into the federal COVID leave, which is a little bit more expansive on the reasons. If they went through all 20 days and we're still having issues, we would start looking at whether they need to be FMLA qualified. They would start going into their sick days, and we would work with them through whatever came next. All of these, for either kind of COVID leave, it's confusing. I mean, I spend a majority of my day processing through the forms and coding them correctly, and it's confusing to me. We tried to make it as user-friendly as possible for employees, so when they go in to fill out the form, they're not picking, oh, I want state COVID leave or I want federal COVID leave. We just ask them to say the reason that they need the leave, and then we process through which one it qualifies for. That is all the information on the website. I do want to say, you probably heard me say, fill out this form, fill out this Google form several times. I can take absolutely zero credit for those forms. Damon Donnell is the Google form master. And I will call him and say, hey, you think we can make a Google form for this? And I just have this broad concept, and he literally makes it in like 10 minutes. And it's like, come look at this. It does amazing things. It has saved so many hours and made the process, I know it seems probably convoluted, but it really is going pretty seamless across all of the different people that have to look at this information. So thank you, Mr. Donnell, and I'm sorry I call you every 10 minutes for a Google form issue. Okay, so I know we went through a lot, and then maybe some things that we didn't go through that you want to talk about. One thing I do want to mention on the COVID leave, I asked the ladies in the business office to run a report, and they told me that today we had 61 employees out on COVID leave. Now, there's probably a little flexibility in this number because sometimes people are on the form and they don't get the leave, and then sometimes people are not on the form and they need the leave. And so that's a rough number, but today there are 61 employees coded as being on COVID leave. What questions do you have?
I was going to say, you did a really good job of explaining it. And the website's impressive.
When we started, but you answered it all.
Okay.
What we want to do is clip what she did tonight and post it to the website as well. Because there have been many questions that we filter all the time. And so when we came up with the idea of COVID with the school board, what do? We knew that you all get a majority of the questions when you're out in the public too. So what could we answer here tonight? And then what generated questions would you have that would additionally benefit any others in the community or in your school district as far as staff? So that's our effort, and that's what we plan to do if it's okay with you all.
I think the simple answer for us, if someone asks us, is just go to the school website and look at the information, because I'm not gonna try to remember what she said. I mean, that was amazing.
What?
So
Go to the website, and then if you don't
I'm gonna go to the
have-
website and
then send
call
her.
her.
Well, yeah, and I'm happy to answer questions. Obviously, this generates lots of questions, especially with employees as they try to navigate what it means for leave, and am I still going to get paid, and does this qualify? So they're welcome to call or email me, and I'll point them in the right direction too. Or yes, call Damon too. That's probably the better choice. Yes. Okay. Anything else?
Very good.
All right. Thank you.
It was great, Ms. Clay. Thank you. Dr. Smith?
Good evening. Dr. Cleveland asked me just to kind of give you an update on the essential worker program. I came last month and we talked about our partnership with the after-school program, and we talked about having our 4 middle schools that would actually assist in providing support for students if we went to remote learning. What ended up happening is we ended up doing a survey and received about 220 results from our staff, and based on that information, talking with Dr. Cleveland, talking with the team, figuring out what is the best solution for our students, we've kind of had some slight changes. So just some information. So if you'll notice, we've actually opened up the number of locations and changed the number of locations of where we will support the after-school all-day program. So the locations are Helster, and that will be our 1 middle school, and then you'll see the remaining elementaries. Pretty much if they had 5 or more students at a location, we're going to keep them at that location. You'll notice that the 3 middle schools, they had very few. I think J.L. Kelly had 1 student. So we looked at what could we do to help support them. So these are the locations that will be opened up. The other 3 middle schools will be what we will use for essential workers that don't fall under students that are of the parents of our workers. So that's kind of where we are right now. We are still working through the after-school program. I just want to make it very clear, this is not a Springdale program. It is really an after-school program, and that means they have a whole bunch of different restrictions on what they can and can't do. Their ratio will be about a 1-to-10 student ratio. There's a lot of restrictions when it comes to what they can do for movement, where they can be. We'll be utilizing the cafeterias and the lunchrooms for these programs. And if you look at the numbers, you're talking anywhere between 5 and about 18, I think, maybe, students per site. And so that's where we are right now. We are working nonstop trying to figure out exactly what we're doing. We're collecting forms from our district employees just because some of our requirements, they're still required for the after-school program. They just have to duplicate them. And so we're going through that process. Just give a shout out to Jennifer Tucker. She's done an amazing job working with us. She worked all weekend long getting this information and helping us coordinate it. And so that's where we are right now. I'm sure it'll change tomorrow, but that's where we are right now, and I just wanted to share. Do you guys have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, good evening again. I am here just to give an exciting announcement about a collaborative that we are launching on Friday, September 11th. It's titled the Springdale Collaborative Kickoff, and we're calling this the IF edition. We're bringing together all of the IFs from across the district, and we are going to come to Springdale High School Performing Arts Center, Pat Walker Theater, and we're going to spend a day together doing some really exciting work in terms of lesson design and delivery across our district. And so, as you know, in this new unique landscape, we have students who come to school 5 days, we have students that are blended, and then obviously we have our virtual students. The purpose of this collaborative, as we bring our facilitators in, is to establish a network of collaboration and support that will allow our instructional facilitators to partner with our teachers to really focus in on two goals with this lesson design and delivery. First, to use a consistent lesson design and delivery process to actively engage our learners, whether they're on site or whether they're remote. And I think it's really important that we all remember that some students chose remote because they chose the blended model, but other students are quarantined, and some of them will be quarantined more than once. And so, like Ms. Clay, I have a son that's a sophomore, and I got a call September 1st at 5:15 p.m. that he was a probable close contact. And I just stepped out a little bit earlier to hear that his test is negative. And even though he's negative, he can't go back to school until September 15th. And so my sophomore is taking all of his classes at home from September 2nd until September 15th. And so the lesson design and delivery process right now is absolutely crucial. That whether you're sitting in the classroom, whether you've chosen to be blended and it's your at-home remote day, or whether you're a student in quarantine, that you are able to actively engage with your learning and that you're able to keep pace with your classmates and that you're able to hear from and still have active engagement with your teachers. And so we have a plan for that, and we've had a plan for that. But also from the teacher perspective, it is absolutely essential that our teachers feel confident in this process and they feel supported and they have the resources that they need so that they still feel like they have one job. Because what we don't want teachers to feel like is that they're trying to do multiple different jobs in this new landscape, because it doesn't have to be that way. Which takes us to goal number 2. To use the lessons to enhance our already existing district curriculum, which feeds this lesson design process. Our district curriculum and model lessons are already posted, and more lessons are being posted every day. And so really what our teachers are doing is they're taking this awesome curriculum that's already out there, and they're facilitating it in a new way. So what we're going to do is use the lessons to enhance the already existing district curriculum, allowing teachers in our district, districts across the state and the nation, access to quality on-site remote lessons embedded with interactive technology and aligned with essential state standards. Because, as you all know, for years, people across the state and our great nation access Springdale curriculum, and they use it. And it's very, very important to us that not only are we supporting our teachers, but that we're continuing to develop, design, deliver, and post quality curriculum for anyone out there who could benefit from that. And so we have already communicated with several districts across the state. In other states, we talked to people in California, all different states that are continuing to pull and access our curriculum even now in this new landscape. And so we're very excited to come together and kick this off and start providing some coordinated district support with the wonderful, wonderful people we have as human capital in our district. Do you all have any questions about the collaborative or?
If someone outside the district wants to use our curriculum, what's the process that they have to go through?
All they have to do is go to our district website, and then they go to, there's a curriculum button on the drop-down, and they just click on the curriculum. There are buttons for every subject area, and then when you click on those buttons, they're broken into grade bands, and they're already, the curriculum is all mapped.
Okay.
They're interactive, like little globes and things they can click on. And now, underneath the buttons, we're now adding new links that say blended lessons. And so they don't even have to go into the bigger button. If they're specifically saying, okay, I'm in another district, I have no idea where to start with blended. They can just go to our curriculum link, look under social studies, for example, it'll say blended lessons, and they can click on K2, 3, 5, 6, 7, whatever they're looking for. And that is growing every day, so we're continuing to add and feed that.
Is there a way to look at the website traffic, however, to see, one, how many teachers within our district are actually using it instead of designing their own or whatever, or how many people outside of our district are using it?
So we do have Google Analytics, and Dr. Smith is actually going to come up in just a moment to speak about our next piece, which piggybacks right into, she's actually going to walk you through a lesson that you might see posted should you go to our curriculum page. But yes, we do check analytics regularly, and so she can shed some light on that as well. Any other questions? Okay, thank you guys very much.
If you want an analytic report, I can print one tonight and get it to you guys. I don't have anything right in front of me, but it kind of shows where all the hot spots are in the nation that are using it and how many people are using it.
Great.
So what I'd like to do now is just quickly take you through a lesson. Just consider me Miss Fink. She's not able to be here tonight, so I just decided to step in her place, even though she does an amazing job. I wish she could be here. But first of all, I want to take you to one lesson. Please understand that this is just kind of evolved in the last few days of this look. So they don't look like this yet, but hopefully this is where we're going to start going. So just a kind of a model lesson. First thing I want you to notice is the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you'll say, well, why are they over there on the far left? Well, because some people might want to put day 1, first day, first lesson, first unit, depending on how they want to label it. So we want to give teachers an opportunity. Here is the lesson, and I want to explain something. So this looks very simple when you look at it, and most people might just skip right over this page, but there's some consistency and there's some learning that goes on. So just even different fonts. We have people that are still learning how to do fonts. And so we have people all across the district in different stages of learning in the technology, and we know that, and our goal is to do just what Ms. Tischer talked about, is the collaborative, so that we can actually bring in experts in different areas. If you'll also notice, there's little squares with numbers in them. Some people are not as familiar how to put those in there. We have them colored differently. That's different for some people. If you'll notice, the background is kind of an orangish color. We have a different color for every single subject. So math is one color, English is another color. Okay, so let's just take this first thing for a minute. If I were to say I want to go to day 1, the idea is I click on the first box and it will take you to day 1. And you think, well, that's really easy. How many people really know how to click on a box with the number 1 in it and will take them to a different slide in the PowerPoint presentation? So even though it seems really minor, this is a learning curve for everybody, these tools and these skills that everybody's learning. So in the directions, it will tell a student to go to number 1, the green box. This is for an elementary, and it will take them to their first day. So when you get to the first, oops, sorry, I went the wrong way. So if you get to the first day, the first thing you should see is a learning goal that is written. So not only does it say what's going to happen, but it will tell students what they're going to do. They're going to be watching videos, drawing pictures, reading books, and so forth. We want every single thing to start off with a video, just a really introductory video that teachers can either personalize for themselves or it can be done by the district. This is a 19-second video that just gets them excited about weather. This particular item, I'm just going to show you like a half a minute of this one, but this is a video to get students excited. We actually had Dan Scoff come in and he provided this, so.
Hi kids, I hope you had a great summer. I'm going to take off my mask. I hope you're staying safe in school, and welcome back to school. My name is Dan Scoff. I'm the Chief Meteorologist of KNWA and Fox 24, and this is my home here when I'm at work. This is the Weather Lab, and the Weather Lab is where we can track storms, we can look at the radar, we can check out satellite, and so I'll just kind of let you know a little bit about what a meteorologist does.
And so he goes into about a 5-minute video about he takes them all around and shows them all this. So the idea is we're trying to get students excited. Okay, again, if you'll stop for a minute, notice there's a 1 in the bottom left, but you also notice it's a video. So we either have to make our own videos or have a video made or pull a video from YouTube. We have to house it in a certain place, then we have to link it and put it in this Google slide. So the process is not easy. And so this is where a lot of people, they're trying to learn these skills. The people that are catching on are able to get a little bit further along. Okay, the other thing, if you'll notice here, and I think Mr. Miller's going to help me with this one, but the other thing we're always trying to include in any of our lessons is the type of reading. If you'll notice in this one, they've got a big picture. Again, we're having to insert a picture. That's new to some people. It says click here. That arrow, believe it or not, is actually from a draw, so you have to know how to draw. If you'll click on the word here, it takes you to a link. And if you'll notice this particular person has chosen to do this type of format for the book. You can click along. If you have an English language learner, somebody that might be struggling, notice at the bottom, you have the English. You can click on it.
Is it a storm that drops round balls of ice out of the sky? We call that a hailstorm.
And so you can see that we're trying to embed all these different things. And everybody has a different skill set, and everybody has a different set of tools that they like. Other people would use something different for this reading, but that's something that they're learning. Okay? And then, again, finding images to insert. We still notice the the green one at the bottom, so they know what day they're on. They could watch a video. Okay, the next slide, it will say stop, go back to Seesaw, and that little round button with the audio image in it, it looks like it's real easy, just click on it, but that actually takes quite a bit of time because that means either somebody went into Screencastify, recorded it, downloaded it, moved it, uploaded it, and linked it. So it's not like you see these things, it's real quick, it takes a while. There are other programs that can do it. Okay. This is Google Slides, and it's asking the students then to go back to Seesaw. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about Seesaw. There's been a lot of conversations about why do we choose Seesaw, and one of the things that Seesaw has that is able to help our students is we have iPads for our younger students because they're not at the stage where they can really start typing. So it's very easy for them to use the key or the face of it and draw. What Seesaw allows is for students to actually have, I'm going to say, a document where they can circle their numbers or their answers, take a picture of it, and immediately send it to a teacher for an assessment. So it has some tools that they don't have readily available in Google Classroom. So voice recording, students can talk out loud, record themselves, picture capability, drawings, and so forth. We are having Seesaw training. We have modules, teacher videos, we have building leaders, and we have Seesaw ambassadors. So if you just kind of look at this page for just a second, you'll notice the Seesaw ambassadors across our district. They have been an amazing help. They kind of come whenever we need and say, okay, we're designing these lessons. What do we need to change so that they work well with Seesaw? This particular lesson was done by Jessica. She did an amazing job. She came in and sat down with the team. We talked about some issues that had arisen with Seesaw, We said, how do we take care of these issues? And that's where this lesson design came from that allowed it to be very easy to flow. And then you can kind of see the training that we do. We want to make sure that every school has somebody there that can support them. And if they don't understand the answer, then it can go to an ambassador, kind of a higher up, so we can make sure we get their answers addressed. I do want to show you this one little quick, I think it's about a minute video. This was actually done 10 minutes of this, and it takes everybody step by step on how to upload and download videos, but I just wanted to show you. Oops, excuse me. Paul, do you mind? Thank you.
An activity. And here you want to create a new activity, and you can name it. So I will name it, though this is a science lesson, so I'll name it Science Day. Actually, I'll date it. So I'll do the date for tomorrow is 9/8. So I want to assign this to my kids, and this is where you'll want to type your instructions. So if you remember, day 1 is green. So every time it's a day 1 slide, they'll see the green square in the bottom. So I want to say, number 1, open your slides. Number 2, click on the green number 1 box to get started. And then this day of activities has no response needed, so I might just type, there is no response for today. And you're also welcome to add voice instructions. This would be really good for our ELL kids. And I highly recommend doing that. And then this is where you're gonna add your slides. So your multimedia instructions, you're gonna upload from your Google Drive.
Okay, and she goes on quite a bit more and explains all that stuff. But the idea is we have 2 things happening. We have these Google Slides that are being created. They're very interactive when you use Google Classroom. Seesaw, we're making some minor adjustments. We found out you can't upload 79 slides. And so we can do it in Google Slides, which is what we're doing, and then we're modifying it to work with Seesaw. We also think it's very helpful to have the big stop sign at the end so kids know you are done with the day, and then it takes them back to Seesaw, and at that point there should be an activity if there's an activity for the day. So kind of think that our goal is to, 1, keep the kids engaged, and if you saw, I could have done that as a teacher in the classroom, or a kid could have done that completely independently. Or a teacher in the classroom could have done something different in one of these cases, but the Monday should still be the Monday, no matter where the student is, whether they're with their peers at school or if they're at home learning. And so that's kind of our goal, is to make sure that we are not creating extra work. However, I do want to say I am so appreciative of the teachers, because every little thing you just saw here is not just something that they just type in and it works. It is a big process to download, to learn, to upload, to make the link open for everybody to access. And they have done a great job, and I think the process will just get quicker as teachers learn these tools. Some teachers learn certain tools and they love them and they use them, and some like different tools, but there is a ton of tools out there. Just kind of reiterating what Ms. Tischer said, on our district website, if you go to www.sdl.org, you'll see a button at the top that says district. If you click on that, it'll take you down to curriculum. In the past, you've just seen the circles, and you would actually click on a circle and it would take you into the UBDs. We wanted it to be a little more transparent right now. So I said, I don't want them to have to go hunt and find these lessons. So if you'll notice, we said, let's do elementary, middle, and junior high and high school links. And if you click on one of those links, you will see the start of what would look like an Excel document with the weeks across the top and the content or grade levels on the side. And you can go on and say 5th week, 2nd grade, and find it. Now, we are vetting these lessons. While they might be completed and teachers have access to completed ones, we're not putting them up on the website until they've really been vetted. You'll see some that say the yellow highlighted are still under review. So we want to review them, make sure they're appropriate, make sure they're actually grade level. We want to make sure we're covering the proper content, and then you'll put them out there. So you'll kind of see they're starting to grow as however Ms. Fink has shared those across the district with people so they have the full gamut of everything. One thing just about secondary, in elementary, the majority of courses are math, English, science, social studies with a few electives. At the high school level, half of the teachers are not core teachers. Student takes 7 periods a day, 4 of them are core, 3 of them are not. So there's a huge number of teachers right now that are in our district that are teaching these elective courses, CTE, a lot of different courses that part of the collaborative is how do we start connecting the different buildings across the district so that they're not all creating their own, that they can truly share the lessons with each other. We also want to say that our goal is not to create a lesson that a teacher does not have some autonomy to make sure that it fits what they want to do. So these are the skeleton lessons that they can then pull over. If they want to add a different video, a different book, if they want to add a little bit more, if they want to do something slightly different, they have that option, but we just want to be able to provide it for them. So, any questions about that? For the teachers out there that are listening, they're doing an amazing job. I was in some schools today asking teachers how they were doing, and they're like, we're learning, we're getting by. So I know they're working very, very hard, and we appreciate all that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, while the COVID world is happening, things from our previous normal life are still happening as well. Over the pandemic time period, the U.S. Department of Education released about 2,000 pages worth of Title IX regulations that went into effect on August 13th. Mostly well, I haven't read all 2,000 pages. I'll just be full disclosure there. But most of what the new regulations have to do with are compliance for universities. But there are some changes to K-12 institutions as well, mostly with the investigation and reporting of sexual harassment allegations. And those changes are reflected in these policy changes. It's a little bit different than what you've seen in the past. This time I would like to request that you replace those policies listed, the lettered policies, with the numbered policies. These numbered policies are ASBA model policies with the goal of this being the first step towards moving the board towards full adoption of the ASB model policies, hopefully by July 1 of this year. It's not as easy as that sounds because we want to make sure that the Springdale portions of your policies are preserved and incorporated into those model policies. But that is a goal that I have to bring to you as spring approaches. So for a while, it'll be a little bit awkward because we'll have a few numbered policies with our old lettered policies. But these Title IX policies are reflective of the ASBA recommended changes to our policies. In all reality, there are not a lot of changes to how our process will go. We've had a process for investigating sexual harassment allegations long before the Title IX regulations came into place, but these officially make them part of our policy.
Is this Title IX in respect to students, or does it also cover?
It covers students and staff, yes.
Okay.
Yes, so the sexual harassment piece would cover anybody, students and staff, and it always has. So we have dealt with sexual harassment allegations and investigations at both the student and staff level. The other policy change is part of the state COVID leave that we talked about earlier, that we do. Mr. Hayes is over here coughing. That makes me nervous. I don't know if he's 6 feet away from me or not.
I need to scoot over a couple places.
Isn't that funny? You can't cough or sneeze or anything now without people looking at you. But part of the state COVID leave criteria for reimbursement, remember I told you that we have to have documentation from the employee. We also have to adopt a policy as a district in order to qualify for the reimbursement. So this is also an ASBA model policy that I made a few tweaks to that incorporates the criteria for the state COVID leave. I will add, one thing that's not reflected in the policy but is new as far as Title IX is there are some new training requirements, both for the Title IX coordinator, that's me, and people who will act as Title IX investigators. So we're working on finding the right entity to do that. There are entities out there, but I don't know what the training looks like virtually. And so I want to make sure that if we pay for a virtual training, that it's good quality. So we will be bringing that forward sometime soon. Does anybody have any questions?
Are the Title IX investigators you mentioned a while ago, are they designed, is that designed to be an in-house thing, or do we have an outside person that's supposed to come in and do that?
It's designed to be an in-house thing. Most of our neighboring districts are designating assistant principals to take on that role and be investigators for their building. So I think that's probably the path that we'll take, but it's designed to be internal. You could do it externally if you wanted to, but you're allowed to do it internally.
Just one point. Ms. Clay and the rest of the team did discuss all of these with the Personnel Policy Committee.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Thank you for mentioning that. Yes, we discussed this with the PPC the first week of school, and they agreed, they passed them unanimously. If there aren't any questions.
Typically on the internal, you appoint someone internally, I mean, if everything checks out, it'll stop. If it doesn't stop, then you're gonna get external.
Yeah, so Title IX is set up that if the internal process doesn't meet the needs of the person who brings the complaint, they continue on through the process up to the U.S. DOE, Title IX investigators. If there aren't any questions, I do need a motion on
Can it
these
be
policy
a
changes.
single motion, or does it need to be two?
You can do a single motion.
Okay.
Make a motion to accept the policy changes to Title IX and the COVID leave.
We have a motion by Mr. Ramos, a second by Mrs. Creek, to accept the policy changes for the Title IX regulations and the COVID leave. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, my throat got dry from listening to Ms. Clay talk for an hour tonight.
Now.
Wow. Threw you right under the bus.
Me.
So humorous.
Just kidding.
You'll pay for that.
No. Board, this evening I present for your review the budget for the 2021 school year. Let me just kind of give you a Reader's Digest version, be happy to answer any questions you may have, but as y'all recall, last spring, the tax notices went out late, and it ended up having an impact on our finances last school year. I had budgeted for around $69 million in local property tax collections. We were probably on target to get around 70, but because the notices went out late, we only got around 65. So I anticipate that not being the case this year, but I have just budgeted basically a normal year, which if I'd gotten 70 last year plus the growth in our assessment would put me around 72. So that's what I've budgeted for local property taxes. In the event that they go out early next spring, then we could end up having more revenue in this year than normal. So that's the bulk of the revenue increase that I have budgeted in the budget for you. You will notice I did not budget for student growth, and since our numbers are down, it doesn't look like we'll be getting any. And then another thing that I did not budget this year is catastrophic occurrence. That's the reimbursement we receive for our high-cost children. That would be a children that requires a one-on-one aid, for example, and has to be transported, things of that nature. We never know from year to year how much of that we're going to be reimbursed. And so this year I just took a very conservative approach and just pretended like I'm not gonna get any, because that way I'll be grateful for what I get. Last year I budgeted around 750 and we only got 500,000, and that was not a good place to be. So it all depends on how many schools submit for reimbursement. They have a set amount of dollars. The more people that go to the pie, the smaller the piece of pie. So that's a change that I made this year. And then there was one other thing I was going to, because we didn't do high stakes testing last spring, there is no school recognition money that will be rewarded this year. So we won't be receiving any of that, so I don't have that budgeted either. So that's a revenue synopsis. Any questions on that? Okay. Moving on to expenditures. The expenditures, I have budgeted up quite a bit. That is typical. We have to budget what is carried over in the categorical funds, and we had around $4.5 million carried forward. So I don't anticipate spending all of that, obviously. So the expenses are a little aggressive, I guess you would say. We will not, typically we have not spent all that we have budgeted for expenditures. So other than that, any specific questions you have? You did probably notice the federal grants summary. We do have the new federal grants of the ESSER funds of $4 million. That's new for us this year. And so basically that's the only difference in our federal grants.
Is your revenue number based on the 21,150 that we're at right now, or is it based on?
Thank you for asking me that. All of our funding every year, with the exception of student growth and English language learner funding, is based on prior year. So all of our money this year that I'm working with is based on last year's number.
So it's based on the 22,100.
That's correct.
So if we only end up with 21,100, we're going to be about 10 million short.
Next year.
Next year. Okay.
Next year. It will hit us next year.
Okay.
There is a declining enrollment funding, which I've never received, never had done anything with that, but it basically holds you harmless for half of the students that you lose. So the net effect would be half of the students. But yes, if our enrollment does not reach what it was this last year, then we will have a reduction in state aid next year.
Unless there's some special action by the state.
Right. And hopefully they'll increase the amount per student. That'll help offset some of it as well.
So you basically have one more year until you enter no man's land. Kind of some unknowns with what this potential impact is financially.
That's correct. The only thing that'll hit us this year would be if our English language learners, the number of those students drops significantly. Yeah. That's a great question. Thank you.
And we're still not positive how the 70% free and reduced, we don't know how that's going to play out yet.
Once again, no. I failed to mention earlier that they have extended the deadline for us for this year till October 15th. So it's normally October 1 we have to be there, so we do have a couple more weeks to get there. But yes, that is a year behind as well. So if we don't reach it, then that will impact us next year. And if y'all recall, when we first were at the 8 million and then we started marching our way up, it took us 3 years to get to 16.
Right.
It works the same way. If you don't hit it, you don't lose all 8 million. You just lose a third of the 8 million. But we don't want to do that either. So.
Okay.
Since our pre-K numbers are not as high as we had anticipated, does that affect any of the grants that we?
It does. It does. One of our grants, the Endeavor Foundation was one of the funding sources. This was going to be the last year for that funding source. So regretfully, we declined that grant for this year because we were going to have to eliminate 11 classrooms funded by that grant the following year anyway. And that made more sense to eliminate that grant than one of the other grants that is ongoing. One of the other grants is based on the number of students attending, so it will automatically reduce based on our enrollment numbers.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to accept the budget?
I'd make a motion to accept the 2021 proposed budget.
Second.
There's a motion by Mr. Owenby, a second by Mr. Bell to accept the 2021 fiscal year budget. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you.
You gonna do a facility update too, or are you having Jeremy come? Mr. Hayes? Mr. White.
All right, so Kelly wanted me to give you guys a brief update on the construction projects we've got going. So, DTSOI Phase 2, we are behind schedule a little bit. Right now, completion date is pushed back to February 19th. And now a lot of that's due to delays in getting materials to the job site. The fueling station's underway. Like I said, the tanks have been removed. All the new tanks are put in. They actually started demolition of the old pumps and the asphalt today. So it's making good progress. The locker rooms at Springdale High and Harbor High are underway. Springdale High, they've undercut, backfilled. They've actually got the plumbing and the electrical stubbed out. They're getting ready to start pouring footings. Harbor High, the undercut's complete, and they're in the process of backfilling it now and roll testing it. The elementary project at Tawnytown, we've been moving forward pretty rapidly. We have received a grading permit and approval to proceed with bid package 1 from the city of Tawnytown. That includes subgrade and building structure. Once we receive the cost of bid package 1 and we give Flintco a notice to proceed, they could start mobilizing as early as September 14th. So pretty quick. We'll meet with the City of Tawnytown Planning Commission on September 22nd for the approval of our large-scale development plan. I think that's an update on all of our projects right now. You guys have any questions on them? Okay. All right, thanks.
Thank you.
I think Ms. Tucker is not here this evening. Are you going to be?
I'm doing it, bro.
Okay. Yeah.
Corey texted me a little bit ago. I mean, I'm not so sorry. Anyway, glad to be here. I'm Loretta Mansell. I'm the treasurer of SEA. And glad to be here. And she just wanted me to let y'all know that we've been working hard to support our staff in Springdale. We've been giving scholarships to new educators, and we are grateful to Mr. Emerson for sponsoring 2 of our scholarships. Our new educators really appreciate it. I know y'all know that when you get hired at Springdale, it's your new job, and you don't get paid forever. We don't get paid till September 15th, and for us who are veteran old teachers, we have to budget, and there's no excuse, Lord, for us not having that money. But for new teachers, it's really hard. And then you're asked to do things for your classroom, and you want to do stuff for your classroom. That's the hardest thing. And so we've got these little fun. It's not a ton of money, but it's a little bit to help out new educators to get them on their way. And you don't even have to be a member of SEA to get that, so it's fun for us to do that. We're also working hard to support our veteran teachers. We have all been working so hard and had to make a lot of adjustments this year. Talk about pivoting. Oh, Lord. It's been a lot, but we're doing it. And at our meeting this afternoon, we voted and decided to provide some disposable masks to teachers who still need them for students in their classrooms, which is just one way we know we can help out and offer support. You have a little darling comes in from recess and just rip, their parents didn't plan for their kid to have a ripped mask that day or sneeze all in it. Kid came up to me today, Miss Mansell, can I have a new mask? I sneezed, and it's just, Anyway, so it's just fun little extras that we're doing, and we just appreciate all y'all are doing. We know it's a lot for everybody, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, concerns? If there are none, then meeting is adjourned.